So what we're working on today is solving, and we're actually going to do some graphing a little bit also. So multiplicity is a polynomial, has multiplicity if it has duplicate factors. So this one has a 0 of 3. This one has a 0 of 2, but it also has this 2, and so this is multiplicity 2. And so what happens when you have multiplicity, it comes next to the axis, but it doesn't go through it. So it'll go towards the axis, it hits it, and then it bounces back off. And the same thing if it's coming below. It's going to go towards it, it hits it, and then it bounces back off. So multiplicity will make it so it doesn't actually pass through the x-axis. It's going to turn on the x-axis. And so if I'm graphing this one, I have 1, 2, 3, and then I have 3 and 2, and so because I know it's x to the third, it's going to look like this. So it's going to come up to the 2, but it's going to turn on the 2, come back down and up. And so that's what a rough graph of it looks like. And so for this one, my zeros are 0, -5, and -1 with a multiplicity of 2, because it's -1 twice because it has this exponent here. So when I graph it, it's at 0, -5, and -1. So this has 4 answers, and so since it's negative, it's going to look like the M. Now, it's going to pass through at -5, but it's going to bounce off at the -1. So it's going to go up, it's going to bounce, it's going to go up and back down. I kind of missed my points, my intersections, but you get the drift of what's going on. Okay. All right, so solving by factoring, what happens here is that you have to move everything so it equals 0, and then we're going to factor completely. And then once we do that, we just find the zeros by setting the parentheses equal to 0 like I did here. So x minus 3, my answer was 3. X minus 2, my answer was 2. Just an x, my answer was 0. X plus 5, my answer was -5. And x plus 1, my answer was -1. Okay, so I need to move this over, and it's going to go right in between. And so what I have is I have 2x to the 4th plus 4x to the 3rd minus 8x squared minus 16x. Now what should happen is because I have up to the 4th, that means I should have 4 answers. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you notice, they all have an x, so I can factor out an x. Ooh, and also I just noticed that they all are divisible by 2, so I can also factor out a 2. So I'm going to get x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. Now, if you notice, I have a 4-term polynomial, so that's when I'm going to do 2 sets of parentheses. So what I can take out of both of these is an x squared, so I'm left with x plus 2. And what I can take out of here is a -4, and so I'm left with x plus 2, because if I divide both things by -4, it changes the signs. So I have this parentheses, and so that's one of the answers, or one of the factors. But then now I still have, ooh, where's my mouse? I still have this, and I'm hoping you notice x squared minus 4. Well, x squared minus 4 is just x plus 2 and x minus 2. So there's 3 factors. But again, I'm supposed to have 4 x's, and I'm missing one. And here's the one I'm missing right here. It was up front. And so now what I do is I set each of these equal to 0. So this one's equal to 0. This one is a positive 2. This one is -2. And this one's -2. So those are my 4 answers for this problem. All right, last one we're going to do, last type is graphing using the calculator. And so finding the zeros and factors from a graphing calculator. So you're going to plug the function into, where's my mouse? Oops. There we go. So we're going to plug it into y equals. And then you're going to find where the zeros, which is where they cross the x-axis. And then plug those zeros into our parentheses. And remember, whenever you put things into parentheses, it's the opposite. Okay, so let's graph this. I'm going to go to y equals. Oops, got to turn it on. So I'm going to go to y equals, plug this out. And so now I'm going to plug in my expression right here. X to the third minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6. And so now I hit graph, and I should be able to see where it crosses. And if you notice, it crosses here at -2. So that's my first answer. And then it crosses here at 1. So there's my second answer. And then it crosses here at 3. So that's my third answer. And so now what I do is I take those and I plug them into my parentheses. And so it becomes x plus 2, x minus 1, and x minus 3. And those are my factors. You could have also factored it using the method I did right here, right? I could have done 2 sets of parentheses. But what I wanted you to see was that you can also find the answers by graphing, which tells you the zeros, and then you can plug them into parentheses. Okay? All right, let's try a couple problems. And so solve by factoring. So these are the ones where we're going to just try and factor. So if you notice, I have an x, so I could take out an x in each thing. And now I'm looking for my factors of 6 that subtract to give me 5. That's right, those are 6 and 1. And the only way I can get a positive 5 is if I have a positive 6. And then I just do the opposite. So this one's 0. This one is -6. And this one's 1. And so those are my 3 answers. For number 2, I have to get both of these over there. So it's x to the third plus x squared plus 4x plus 4. I don't have anything that goes into all of those, so I'm going to have to do my double sets of parentheses. And so I could take out an x squared out of this first one, so I'm left with x plus 1. And I can take a 4 out of the second one, and I'm also left with x plus 1. And so this one is going to be x plus 1. And then here it's x plus 4. I'm sorry, not x plus 4, it's x squared plus 4. So this answer is -1. This one's a little more work because it's an x squared. So to get rid of a 4, I'm going to subtract 4. But now I have to get rid of a square. And the way I get rid of a square is doing a square root. And so it's actually plus or minus 2i. Because the square root of 4 is 2, but the square root of a negative is I. And so let's highlight our answers so you can see. So here's the first answer. And then there's the second and third answer because one's positive and one's negative. And that will give us the 3 answers we're looking for. All right, and then the last set of problems it's asking us to do. What am I asking you to do? Oh, find the zeros by graphing. So let's go back here to our calculator. Clear that out. And so it's going to be x to the third minus 7x minus 6. And so I graph. And so if you notice, it crosses at -1. It also crosses at -2. And then it also crosses at 3. And so those are my 3 zeros. Because that's all it's looking for. It's just looking for zeros. All right, and then let's go to one last one. Number 4. So clear this out. -2, oops, x to the third plus 6x squared minus 8. And let's see what this one looks like. And so this one, it crosses at -1. But if you notice here, it turns at 2. So when it turns at 2, that means it's that answer twice. And so those are my 3 answers. Okay. So you can graph them by hand by doing the first process of factoring and finding out where they cross. And then up here, this is the first process. Or you can graph them in the calculator. You can also just factor and find the answers that way.